Alright, I'm back, and this is Pre-Crime Part 2, a thumbnail sketch of what I'm talking about. Um, People tribalize. We know people tribalize. I know there's been a lot of stuff lately, going against alt-right writers and various other people about tribalization. But that in and of itself kind of proves that tribalization is a thing. Christopher Hitchens has mentioned it in one of his books that people do tend to tribalize. And there's not a lot of information on how people tend to tribalize. And that is kind of partially where I'm going with my line of reasoning when it comes to even predicting criminal activity even more on a deeper level than is been currently available. In criminology, there is multiple ways for people to be profiled and for them to be predicted, if you will. Their predictions would be like, impulsive nature. I know criminals tend to show up to the same scene of the crime. Psychopaths tend to habitually kill someone. Say like a 5 foot tall blonde spurned a psychopath. That psychopath may then sit there and go out killing all 5'4" tall blondes. And these are all very superficial though. They don't really go as deep as I think my extrapolations to the data do, which would be that we can be very, very specific on what type of 5'4" tall blonde. Oh, that's not tall. Excuse me, 5'4" blonde. Yeah, well, overall, would be most likely, because you could have 1,000 different women that are 5'4" and blonde in an area, and what makes one more likely than the other? And I think I have the line of reasoning to back that up. Now I've spent the last decade looking at thousands, hundreds, thousands. I can't even keep track. Could be like it has felt like more than I should have read in my lifetime at that point. Hundreds, thousands, and about mostly about pedophilia. And I did a video like this in 2016, but this is a deeper extrapolation, a thumbnail sketch, if you will, of what I'm talking about. Now, I do believe that the victims that are chosen are not arbitrary. In fact, I think the very first part that I noticed is that all victims of a pedophile seem to be on the same spectrum of the Myers-Briggs personality typing as that with whom they've offended against. The perps offended against the victim, they all share the same personality typing on the MBTI. This is something that profiling does not do. Profiling looks for a lot of things, but in my research, I have not found anyone mentioning the Myers-Briggs at all. And I think that if you were to go read a few older case studies with that knowledge, that you would realize that this part is indeed true, that they do share the Myers-Briggs personality type. Now, the next part is, you're like, okay, fine, they share the same personality type. That doesn't really make anything more specific. That's just one piece of data, and, there could be 1,000 ENTPs or 1,000 INTJs or 1,000 INFPs in an area, and, and that's true. I live in a town of 20,000, and the majority personality type seems to fall into the P spectrum. And there are multiple people to verify that particular thing without being a solipsism, whatever it is. Now, I noticed that the next part is that they actually share genetic data through analysis. I have a way of verifying the genetic data without having gone out there and like taking blood sampling. So there's no blood sampling here that has equated to this DNA evidence. It's genetic evidence. What it is it's analytical. It is alright, we know a lot of traits can be discerned through the major histocompatibility complex. Basically, when a woman is looking for a lover, a kiss will register with a woman about it not being and this is a crude expression of, but a incestuous type of relationship to weed out particular lovers that they share too much on that type of level. So I think the major histocompatibility complex also plays a role in understanding how people not just tribalize, but also how they pick victims, how perps pick victims. That it's similar, because there's some thoughts that psychopaths tend to suppress their sex drive, and I wouldn't be shocked if the same thing that would register sexually also registers with their victims. That their victims would have been lovers had they not become murdery. Same thing with pedophiles. That this major histocompatibility complex plays a major role in discovering the victims specifically. So now I have two criteria, and I'll point out to this. 2015, I was paying attention to a case that happened back in 98, 99, about a young boy who was sexually assaulted by a police officer. If you go and you look into that case, you should find that both the victim and the perpetrator actually share similar genetics. In fact, several people who showed up in support of the victim to get his closure were also similar on the major histocompatibility complex and share similar genetics. I know because there's at least one person on that side who it seems that I am related to through genetics and being out there. So I don't think that was arbitrary that all of us just randomly showed up at the same place for the same reason, to support a victim against a perpetrator who, on a whole, shares somewhat of genetic similarity. This works even with celebrities that you might like, that the further you go out, you'll find that there are genetic similarities between you and the celebrity that you admire. And I've read several autobiographies recently, and I'm starting to find that there is a potential link here. Now, that's not saying that the celebrity is 100% like you, but that you share genetic similarities here. And if that's true, then crime kind of works in a tribalization, but instead of people that would be friends of yours, then instead they are victims of yours. So that's two criteria on pre-crime that I have seemingly discovered in my findings when I was paying attention to these cases and everything when I was out there. The Myers-Briggs being one of the main ones, and the major histocompatibility complex being the second. There's a few other things that I'm not going to get into at the moment, but these are two major factors in, I think, trying to figure out what person is most likely to be sexually assaulted, murdered, raped, killed, murder, that's redundant, by a particular individual. And so this has been a thumbnail sketch of my train of thought that I can verify and back up with multiple case studies that I think will lead to more convictions earlier, heavier sentences, and far less crime in general. I think that this pre-crime unit is essentially going to help. These extrapolations will bring crime down pretty much to nil, with luck. So this has been Kyle Reed Jr., and there'll be more updates as I have them. Thank you.